What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this one will break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for moving forward. I'm also going to break down how the market's looking right now, what's going on with SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and many tickers out there, and also what's happening with the news affecting the markets as some new earnings just came out. I'm also going to talk about some adjustments made to the option chain on SPY, which are going to be very important, and how the market makers may be looking at today as we have lots of options expirations. Before I do anything like this, though, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so make sure you take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Looking at SPY, this thing is up about 0.43% as of right now, but the question is, will it continue to push up, or is the market about to see something unexpected? And the answer is this is going to depend heavily on the reaction we get after all these earnings are truly coming out and actually moving by the time the market opens, and also based off what happens with the options chains. Now, to start us off, we had Capital One releasing earnings yesterday, CSX, and then American Express, and just a couple of other ones. And so far, the majority of them have been beats so far. American Express actually beat on earnings, and it actually is down despite that. AutoNation ended up seeing pretty nice beats too. CSX actually had mixed results. They actually missed on revenue, but beat on EPS. And Capital One did better than expected. So the majority of these have been quite decent so far, which is good for the markets. And I just want to note that when it comes to how the market's moving, the Dow Jones has been going up for 9 straight days. That's the longest win streak since September of 2017, adding 0.47% during the session. On top of this, when it comes to supply right now, there was news that came out that existing home sales were down 3.3% in June from the previous month, according to the National Association of Realtors. Once again, showing another tough month for the housing market compared to June of 2022. AI commitments are very important and worth noting. We're seeing a lot more companies coming out, being facilitated with more deals when it comes to transparency and security. And once again, we are starting to see cargo declines for major airlines. So, anyways, those are just a couple of things worth noting, at least according to this. And I find most of this information useful. Now, to add on to this, we have a very interesting options chain. Don't forget that we have well over 3.5 or almost 3.5 million puts expiring and about 1.2, almost 1.3 million calls expiring, 435 max paying with a 2.67 put to call ratio. But one thing that did change on the options chain so far, if you look at SPY, there's a lot more open interest, or there's a lot more open interest and volume around the 450 strike on the put side. But on the call side, right now, there's a lot of volume and open interest right here at the 455 strike. So if somehow they try to squeeze shorts and pump the markets, now the market maker is going to be watching 455 on the call side. On the put side, if the market comes down, 450 is going to be a level to watch for. So there's going to be our two targets for the day. One of them is likely going to be tested and reached. Right now, the market's still trying to pump up after the earnings that came out. Let me just add that looking at the current structure, we do have this inverse hand shoulders like structure. We're coming very close to this top right here around this 455 level. So we are going to likely see the market try to gap up by the time we open. But the question is, will we keep going, and are we going to see a rug pull? And here's my answer to that. Basically, you're going to be watching this on a level to level basis. So right now, SPY is above this 454 area. I believe it has the potential to try to get very close to 455 again. And once it hits this level, if we break above this because of all the options expirations, 456 is a possibility. However, this could also be a trap because of all these options. The shorts may come in and double down to try to get lots of puts in the money. There's a good chance of that happening too. So you're going to be watching, can we hold above 454? If it breaks down, the really, really important support is going to be right here around this 450, what is this, 452.5 zone, like around there. We have to try to hold above, I'm sorry, 453 around there. We need to try to hold above 453 around that area. If 453 breaks, this thing's going to come all the way down to fill the gap into the very low 450s. 452 is going to come, if not even lower levels than that. And then we could even see a bigger drop. Okay, so 453 is going to be very important today. We have to hold above that for this thing to remain, in a decent place. And if you want to be really bullish, we have to break and hold above 455. So far, it's looking like it's going to test 455, and we'll see if it rejects. So watch these levels very carefully when moving into today. I want to be as open-minded as possible. I know I told you guys that there's a good chance the market's going to gap up, and that's what we're getting so far. But there's also a good chance we wouldn't see some downside because of the options chain. But it did change a little bit overnight, especially on the call side. So this is worth noting. There has been some changes. The best thing to do is just be open-minded and watch the levels carefully and let the charts tell you which way it's going to go. For Tesla, this is actually starting to gap up a bit, but I'm a little concerned about Tesla because the problem is we have this big gap below around this 260 area, and Tesla's not really pumping like the market. It actually pumped in the morning, it came down a bit. So I'm going to be watching. Could Tesla try to break this 268 resistance, get above the 200 EMA on the 5-minute time frame? If Tesla could do that, it has the potential to push up all the way into the 270s. All right. But if Tesla fails, and right now it's getting very close to this support right here, if Tesla breaks below 265 to 264.5, around that area, it's going to come all the way down to 260 again. It's going to get a rug pull. There's this big gap right here from the pre-market. So be careful with Tesla. It's still not looking insanely strong. It's looking very sideways. It's starting to downtrend right now. So be careful if we get that confirmation or break below this 265 to 264.5 zone, around that area. If that breaks, it's going to come all the way down to 260 most likely. If it manages to hold above this area and get above the 268 area, then it has the potential to push up. Otherwise, it's just stuck between these levels, so watch that very carefully. For Apple, it's kind of green in the pre-market, holding up quite nicely. It actually looks a lot more steady than many other companies. And we look like we're seeing a nice accumulation right here. So I'm going to be watching a 194 test on Apple. If that breaks, we could see this thing try to push up technically for about 195, but I would still be very cautious with all the options expirations. If you want to be bearish on Apple, you need to see it break below 193.5. And if that fails us, we're going to be watching 192.5. Now, 192.5 is a very major support. So far, Apple's been holding up, so I don't expect it to break below that. But just to be safe, if it did do so, it's going to come tanking down. That's going to slow the markets down. For now, just watch these levels on Apple. It's looking quite steady, so it looks like it's going to try to get to 195 today before rejecting, and we will see what happens after that. For the triple Q, this is very interesting. This thing is actually popping right now after the earnings came out. It's getting very close to 380. If it breaks and holds 380, then it is possible this thing is going to try to make its way up to 382. However, if this is a trap, right, there's always that possibility. If this is a trap and this thing comes tanking down again, you're going to be watching 378. If 378 fails for the triple Q, it's going to come all the way down to fill this gap around 376, excuse me, 0.5 a share. Now, this is worth noting because we have this big gap down here. So be very careful. It could be full of trickery this day. So watch this all very carefully, see these levels, and be well aware of these gaps down below in the pre-market. There's some on SPY, there's some on Tesla, there's some on the QQQ. For Nvda, the same thing exists. There is this gap down here around this 450 area. And let me just put it this way. If Nvidia were to fall, just hypothetically, right? I know Nvidia is a strong stock, but if it were to fall below 454, like around that area, it's going to likely come all the way down to 450, to where this gap is. If this thing breaks above our resistance around 462, around that area, this thing has the potential to push up to about 465 plus, and even 468 becomes a possibility technically. So I'm still in the middle. Nvidia is looking a little bit more bullish, though. It's trying to hold up quite nicely. It's still holding up, so I'm going to be watching each of these levels just to be safe, because it's still in the middle, just going back and forth. It's been stuck all day during the pre-market between 454 and about 460, going back and forth and back and forth, but it's trying to break to the upside. So I'm anticipating a nice pop in the morning. We will see if it continues to hold up or if this thing ends up slowing down with the market just temporarily. Be very careful with this. That's what I'm seeing so far. For Microsoft, the thing about Microsoft is it is trying to gap up and go just like Nvidia. You're going to be watching 350 as 350 as resistance. If that breaks, 352 becomes a possibility. But if it breaks below our 50 EMA as support, and also this 347.75 area, it's going to come all the way down to fill the gap. Now, the thing about Microsoft is, don't forget that on the larger time frame, it still has this imbalance down here, right? So even if it does gap up, there's still an imbalance all the way down the low 340s. So we're going to be watching that very carefully. Anyways, besides that, even Meta is kind of green right now, trying to push its way up. But the problem with Meta is, just like for the market, actually, I don't know if Meta has this. Yeah, Meta has this issue too. There is this gap down below, so just be careful with that. It looks like it has a nice inverse head and shoulder structure. It might just try to keep going for 307 plus and 310. This is looking more bullish on Meta, but my only concern would be trickery because of all the options expiring, and we will see if they end up bringing this thing down. So with that said, guys, I know sometimes I have to make adjustments intraday and like overnight because things change, and that is what's happened today. Yes, we got this gap up. I was predicting that, but I thought there was a good chance the market could slow down because of the options chain yesterday. But things have changed looking at the options chain. So now we're kind of in the middle right now. So we're just gonna be watching which way we break, right? So SPY breaks 455. That's gonna be bullish for the markets. If we start breaking down the 453 zone around there, if that breaks, this thing's going to come tumbling down to much lower levels, and then the options chain is going to be adjusted, and the market makers will trigger the lower levels as well. So as a market maker right now, I'm watching 455 for the calls. That's going to be an important zone. We're going to be watching a test of that. But for the put side, there's 450 as the most important level, and if we do break below these supports, then we're going to be watching that as our other important level. All right, so that's what the option chain is suggesting right now. The price action is still looking a little bit more bullish as the market is trying to push up for now, but this could always change intraday. So just be careful and watch your levels for confirmation. That's the best, most unbiased way I can present this. Thank you for listening. Have a good one, everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Market to the moon as the long term is very bright, and peace out.